Hi sweet friends, welcome back to my channel. My name is Maylene Call from Mrs. Call's Campers. If you're new here, I'm a kindergarten and first grade teacher, but this applies to, I think, lots of primary teachers, elementary teachers, not just kindergarten and first grade. But today I'm going to be talking all about my classroom chants and routines, how I introduce them, and giving you some tips and also sharing them with you. So hopefully you get a lot of information out of this video. Let's go. So first of all, I do weekly vlogs on YouTube, and in those weekly vlogs, I include clips of me teaching so you guys can get some ideas, inspiration, and a lot of what you guys see in those videos are routines, expectations, and consistent things that I do, and you can hear it in the callbacks that I use with my kids. So if you've seen any of my YouTube videos, it's pretty clear that my kids know what to expect. And there is somebody who duetted my TikTok that I made on one of my call and responses, and he nailed it. I'm gonna play that really quick for you here.
Okay, so we're whispering instead of yelling. We're using gesture and body language rather than just our voice. We're cueing, and the kids all know what to say because they've been established in the groundwork of this before, and they understand what their job is.
But he nailed it. I'm extremely consistent with the way that I present information to my kids so they know what to expect and they know how to interact with me in this way. And being consistent also helps your students feel confident to join in. If they're never sure when it's okay to speak, when it's not okay to speak, they're not going to join in because they're not really sure and they don't really want to get in trouble. So my style of teaching is very interactive. And I know that not all of you are going to teach the same way, so please take everything I'm saying with just a grain of salt. This is just how I do it. I'm not saying that anyone has to teach this way, but this is how I do it. I am very interactive with my kids. I love it when they are responding to me. I love when we're talking together. I feed off of their energy. And my specific style of teaching is something that I've adapted to work for me and the way I want my classroom to run, the way I want my lessons to run. But I do think that no matter what style of teaching you have, there are things you can do to influence your students to participate a little bit more during your lessons and to get that call and response rhythm to your lessons. And you'll see one of my call and responses that I use is if you're learning, you are participating. So these tips are going to hopefully help your students be active participants in your lessons. And if you are participating, you are learning. So yeah, the key word here is active, being an active participant in their learning. Before you can start any of that, you have to set the expectations with your kids. This is really important. So I do this one in particular every single time. My turn. Your turn. It's my turn, your voice is off. I need you to
look, listen, and learn.
If you're learning, you are
participating.
You just sit on your
bottom.
You guys see me use that one all of the time in my lessons. I do it every single time we sit at the carpet. And I've already had this conversation with you guys in vlog number 22, I think it was. But I do not have that same expectation for all of my students. I do have exceptions, but this is just a general way to set expectations at the carpet. Okay, I really, really like the structure of that callback because it sets the expectations. They know what to expect. And I also use that callback throughout my lessons. Again, if you watch my vlogs, you can see sometimes in the middle of the lesson, I'll say, if you're learning, you are, and they'll say participating, and that kind of reels in some students who might be off in la la land. Or I'll say my turn. I say that all day long. I'm just being silly. My turn. So today we're going to talk about, so I really like that one. You can borrow it if you want to. I stole it from another teacher, so you're free to do that as well. Okay, so the next thing that you need to do in order for your students to be active during your lesson is give them cues on when they should be participating. So for me, I use a lot of body language. I use my arms to show them what I want them to do. If I want them to raise my hand, sometimes I'll ask a question, I will model raising my hand, and then they know they should raise their hand. Or sometimes I'll ask a question and I'll put my hand to my ear, and that'll signal them that they can just speak at me. There are different times when you want them to raise their hand, and there's different times when you want them to just call out the answer so you can get an idea of what everyone is thinking. Use your body language and they'll get used to it really quickly. My brownie pan is in the shape of a what?
Rectangle.
Because it has two
long sides
and two
short sides.
Good. The other thing that I've kind of taught my students to do is if I am speaking and then I stop speaking and it's a phrase that they are used to, they will finish my sentence. And again, this is, I sound like a broken record, but you can see this in my vlogs. So if you're interested in this call and responses, these chant tips, definitely watch my vlogs and you can see how we've developed it. But my students can tell based on my body language when I stop talking mid-sentence, if it's something that they need to participate in or if it's something that they need to stop because I have a problem. That part is all in the body language. Bookshelves don't really have eyes. Bookshelves don't really have mouths. And then the other thing I do is I reward their behavior. So if I am asking them a question, I put my hand to my ear and then they give me lots of participation, I reward that behavior. And by rewarding that behavior, I'm reinforcing that this means I want them all to participate. Pentagon! Wow, I'm really impressed. This one is a
Star.
twinkle, twinkle, little. So it's really simple when you break it down, but you should be excited when your kids give you the response that you want. You want to reinforce it as much as possible. That's all very self-explanatory, but maybe not. Another way that I kind of encourage this active participant atmosphere is sometimes even if a student says something, I'll repeat it back and ask the students to repeat it with me. So if I ask a student why a character did something and the student responds with, because they were brave, I'll say, because they were brave. Say it with me, because they were brave. And then everybody kind of has a chance to participate. And I really, really think that's something that anybody can incorporate into their lessons, and it keeps all of your students engaged and it makes sure they're all at least understanding what you're asking of them. And so even if your students didn't know the answer, they all get a chance to say the correct answer. Small, they're not the same. Do you know another word for same? They're not
Different.
They're what? Hold on, they're not what?
Equal.
They're not equal. I need to make my pieces equal. And that is another strategy that I also really like using with my English language learners. In fact, this is almost always what I will do. If I ask a question to one of my English language learners and they're not sure, I'll ask another student, what do you think? Can you help them out? And then I'll have my English language learner repeat what they said back. And then of course I'll praise both of them for it. So once your students know that they can be active participants in your lessons and you're rewarding it and you're praising it and you're being really intentional with your body language. For example, if I want my students to be more listeners versus participants, I will kind of bring my energy down just a little bit. So you've seen me in my videos before, maybe when I'm doing a read aloud or something, I can be very energetic and upbeat and kind of ask for their input more. They did get serious. Daddy got serious. Her name is
Charlotte.
But then when I'm more just directly teaching them, my energy level is a lot lower. It's totally different and they understand that. Because there are times when I do need them to just be really good listeners. Someone's talking to you, give them the quiet symbol. Okay, we're learning. I just did outlines. I didn't color anything in. So one of the main forms of callbacks that I use in my classroom, and your callbacks can be anything. And what I mean by callbacks is you say something and then the student says something. So it's really just filling in the blanks for each other. But one of the main examples that I have is for my literacy block, and you can see up here are some posters. A lot of the main story elements that are part of our standards are ones that we talk about anytime that we read, but this can be whatever works for you, whatever grade that you teach. So the big question, how do you introduce this? How do you start from scratch? What do you do to get the kids to where they're at now? So what this looks like for me initially is just saying a small piece. I showed you those anchor charts back there. They have a lot of information on them, and yes, at this point in the year, my students know all of that by heart, but in the beginning, I just give a small piece, and I do think it's really helpful if you put one of your callbacks somewhere where they can see it. So either display it on the board or have it hanging somewhere in your room. I said anchor chart, those are posters. So initially just give them a small piece, so like one line, and then ask your students to repeat it every time. So anytime you say the line, ask them to repeat it and say it with them. If I say fiction is fake and made up, it's non-fiction because it's real life and true. I'm gonna flip through. I'll say it with them. Fiction is fake and made up. And then slowly over time, you can have them fill in those blanks. Fiction is, just get them to say one word, fake. I have it highlighted up there for them. You can see fake is the word that I really want them to remember with that fiction. Fiction is fake and made up. And then you can kind of take away more and more as you go. Use that body language and then praise them when they do it. And if they make a mistake, that's okay too. When you're adding lines and movements to it, it's also going to help your students remember it. So for our setting one, in the beginning of the year, I'll say the setting is where and when the story happens. And then over time, I'll just say setting, and I can just keep the hand motions and they'll get it. So for the parts that I really want them to know, I use a yellow crayon and kind of highlight it for them. And the reason that I keep them displayed, because when I'm teaching in my whole group area, I'm sitting here and the posters are here. So I can look directly at them and then they can look directly at them as well. But if I'm teaching, I can just glance at it really quickly and say it. And if you're interested, they're hanging with some magnetic hooks and curtain rods. I prefer these hooks too. So once you start encouraging the behaviors that you want and you're being consistent, the only thing that's left for you to do is keep adding things on, keep using that body language to encourage it, and reinforcing your expectations. I do have times where my kids will be a little bit lazy with it and I'll just redo it. But the more you do it, the more comfortable they're going to be doing it. So here are some examples of ways that I allow my students to participate in our lessons. We use a lot of hand gestures, and I do not mean I need a pencil, bathroom. I don't mean those. What sounds? A says Roller coasters ready. What's at the top? I says it. If you have crayons, put your hands on your head. And if you don't have crayons, you should get crayons now. I will ask them questions and ask them to show me with their body. So hold up a 1 if you think this, hold up a 2 if you think this, a thumb up by your heart if you agree, thumbs down if you disagree. Nod your head, shake your head. And I actually do it with them because I remember as a kid, I was confused on what nodding and shaking my head meant. Let me know if your kids also get confused sometimes. So I will directly model that for them. Nod your head, shake your head. Private think time. I have a signal for that. And it's something that I didn't necessarily say. When I do this, I want you to have private think time. I just started doing it. So I'll hold up my one finger to my brain and then do a countdown, and I'll close my eyes to kind of signal to them I'm not looking for any input. I'll say private think time. And I don't know what they're doing because my eyes are closed, but I keep them closed. Another way that they participate in my lessons is turn and talk. And my class this year, I'm really lucky because they are so good at turn and talk. My turn. I love that you guys are using complete sentences. I was excited when I've had classes before that it did not work with. So you kind of have to play it by ear. But I'll have 2 students or 3 students turn to each other, talk about it, and I'll listen. I'll kind of work with them. And then when I say it's my turn again, they turn directly back towards me. And you'll notice in my vlogs, I praise it every single time. And I think a lot of what people get caught up on is maybe their students aren't meeting their expectations. But when they do, it's just, I hate comparing this to puppy training, but it is a lot like puppy training. You want to reward that behavior. I know this is a little bit strange for me to say, but teaching kindergartners and first graders is a lot like puppy training in the sense that you are rewarding really, really good behavior and you are not acknowledging the behavior you do not want. So your body is not on your learning leash. I want you to fix it in 5, 4, sitting on your arms in 2, facing the front in 1.
Let's go.
You guys look so nice.
You're funny.
You're funny.
No, you are.
You are. Another way they can participate is find a friend who. So find a friend who thinks this. Find a friend whose favorite part is the same as yours. Find a friend who, whatever. Another thing I do is I ask my students for help. So we'll kind of feign cluelessness. Oh, I really need help figuring this out. Who can explain this to me? Who can help me with this? Have them turn and teach somebody something. Have them explain something. I have students come up and be the teacher. I'll say, okay, who wants to come up and be the teacher, and have them teach the class something. We'll do shared writing together where they're all participating, and it's all just because I'm super, super consistent with them. And kind of on that note, when you create a space for your students that they feel safe participating and supplying answers to things, maybe even if they get it wrong, is making sure that whenever they do get it wrong or whenever they're not on the right track, you don't make a big deal. In my first year teaching, I noticed that my students would come up to the board and maybe they would get an answer wrong or they'd write something wrong, and I would have students immediately notice it, students who were on the carpet, and they would say, that's not right, or they got it wrong, or they did this. What I taught them to say instead was just, if they weren't really sure about the answer that was on the board. And that gave the student who was up there a chance to rethink it without feeling like they were being criticized. So just a simple, instead of calling out, that's not right. And then if a student did something that they were proud of, I taught them to say smart thinking, and that's something that you model with them as well. So when a student does something right, you as the teacher say smart thinking, because your brain, and encourage it, and slowly they'll start to do it too. The other thing that we do to really support that positive environment is we'll say good for so-and-so. So I use this one all the time. If I have a student who is maybe wanting to come up and they never want to come up, I'll say good for so-and-so. Or if I have a student who's successful with something that they've been working on, I'll say good for so-and-so, and I'll model clapping. They'll clap with me. Basically anytime a student in my classroom does something well, I will say good for so-and-so.
Good for
Butterflies.
Good for
Butterflies. As simple as this student walked from the carpet to the cubbies, I'll say, oh, so-and-so walked to the cubbies. Good for so-and-so. It can sound silly, but I promise you my students live for it, and they do it on their own too. I think I talked about in my last vlog, one of my students started participating in our alphabet song for the first time, and my students just automatically, when the song was over, they said good for so-and-so and started clapping. So I think it's all about modeling. Now let's talk about some of the callbacks that I use in my classroom. Hopefully I can remember. So I already shared the my turn, your turn. When we use our whiteboards, I'll say wipe it clean, and they say can't be seen, and they'll erase it. I'll say caps on, they'll put their caps on, and then they'll say markers down. So I'll say caps on, markers down. And then another one is invisible boards. They'll turn their boards over, say where they go. I have all these, I think, saved on an Instagram post. And then a couple of other ones we do, besides my turn, your turn, are the simple hands on top, everybody stop, waterfall, shh. We do, there's a good chunk of them happen in our literacy block. And I also have some that kind of happened by accident. So I'll try to be super consistent with my body language, the way that I phrase things, so that every time I say it, they know what to expect. So I'm sure you've seen in my vlogs where I'll say good readers make, and they'll say predictions, and I do this every time. That is something that could ruin their day. I wonder what's gonna happen next. Readers make predictions. And then sometimes when I'm reading and a character has an idea, I'll say, but then she had an idea. And I always put my finger up there, and so they kind of get it. So whatever way that you are talking to your kids, whatever body language you have, they'll catch on to it if you keep it consistent. That should be the title of this video, is just keeping it consistent. Also, I want to be honest with you guys. A lot of these things maybe might not work so well in your classroom if you're not even really sure how you want to present the information. That's why I share things with you in my vlog, so you can just see how I do it. Maybe you want to say good readers do this. I learned that good readers line from Jen Jones. Good readers do this. Good readers do that. That's where I learned it from. A lot of people use it, but that's just who I saw it from, was Jen Jones. And the more that you pay attention to what other teachers are doing, the more you can use it in your own classroom. So find whatever phrasing works for you. And if you're not sure, borrow someone's until you come up with your own. A lot of it is experimenting in your own classroom and seeing what you do the most with your kids, and whatever you're doing the most with them, it can be turned into a callback or a response. The example again, good readers make predictions. That didn't start as a call and response. I did it with them, they did it with me, and then I stopped saying predictions, and then it was all in them. Good readers make predictions. The end of this video is getting a little rambly, but hopefully this was short, sweet, and helpful. If there's anything that I didn't cover that you have more questions about, always let me know down in the comment section. I love you guys. Thank you so much for being here. Make sure you like this video if it was helpful. Subscribe and join the family, and I will see you in the next one. Also, let me know your favorite call and responses down below. Bye.